Welcome to Elevate and Thrive, Breaking Barriers for an Empowered Life. I'm your host, Jen Smith, and I am so excited to be on this journey with you. Together, we are going to break barriers, defy expectations, and soar to new heights. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. I cannot wait to see where it takes us. Remember, you are worthy, you are enough, and your journey to an empowered life starts now. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am your host of Elevate and Thrive. My name is Jen Smith, and every week we dive into the lives of remarkable individuals who have been through some sort of hardship, adversity, faced it head on. They have shattered barriers. They have come out the other side stronger, wiser, and more empowered. And I could not be more excited about our guest today. If you have not yet, hit that subscribe button. We come out with new episodes every week, and I would love to have you be a part of our community. Our guest today is Amanda Whittemore, and she is a aerial and geometric yoga instructor. She is certified in permaculture as a designer, and she also has her own radio show. I'm super excited to have her on the podcast today. She is going to share some of her journey and her story of things that she's been through and how she came to be where she is today. So welcome, Amanda. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm super excited to have you on the show.
Thank you. I am Amanda Whittemore, and thank you, Jen Smith. Holy goodness, what a beautiful platform and a phenomenal place to showcase and just have a moment to share with others, to be able to be that supportive avenue.
We have connected very recently and have been talking about doing some really amazing things together. I know that you've got some really dynamic things in the works in your world. But before we get into that, I know that you've got a pretty powerful story to tell. Can you just take us back to the beginning of your journey and talk about some of the things that you've been through that led you to where you are today?
Ooh, how much time do we have?
We have an hour, my friend, so share away.
Okay, beautiful. Well, so let's just go right for the whole, just the gushy juiciness of being thankful for being brought into Earth, because some of us may or may not have that reality or that connection that there's time and space beyond Earth. And the fact that we're here on this planet is a gift, and we have work to do and we have things to learn. And throughout my journey, I've learned that Earth is a school, and every day we wake up and we go to school. And that's just how I've came to be able to handle where we are here on Earth. And my parents birthed me in Las Vegas, Nevada. That's where I started. And my grandparents moved us up and out of that area for obvious reasons. When we were kids, we got to live in Northern California, and it's just a beautiful area surrounded by nature and trees. And I always found myself as a little girl off in the field over, picking what I thought were baby pineapples, but it turns out they're chamomile and other just beautiful twigs and herbs. And they were like, plants were my best friends when I was a kid, because I had little sisters, but there was just a lot of commotion in the house with the family, with the divorce and both parents alcoholics and workaholics. And my mother is actually where a lot of the trauma stems from, is because she ran away from home when she was about, and Mom, I love you, thank you for letting me share this part, she ran away. Her sisters, there was quite a few sisters, and they were all sexually molested by their parents one way or another. Not sure the whole story because she'll never give it to me. It's hers. However, she ran away with her littlest sister to Las Vegas, and that's where she met my dad. I love my mama, and she's still working on all of her part. Both parents, alcoholics, a lot to deal with, a lot of unspoken energy. Like, don't touch anything, no emotion, just grow up. Everything's fine. Dad leaves. I'm the oldest. Now, these are your children. You get to nurture your kids and take care of your sisters as your siblings and your mother, because mom's not 100% there to do these things. And that I've never birthed a child still to this day. I'm 44 years young, and I probably not going to be in my future. But, and I chose that at an early age, not even knowing. I was like 12 or 13, taking care of my baby sisters. We'll talk about having kids, and I'm like, why would you do that? I was like, why would anybody bring a child to earth? I'm 15 years old, don't have a license, driving mom's car to go bring my sister from an injury that happened at 2 a.m. because mom's still at the bar. So I gotta like drive my sister to the bar, and just all these incidents that I'm sure we all go through, and we don't realize how they really affect us in the future. And, then I'm still 15, not even with my driver's license yet, driving to go bring my mom to work, take my sisters to school, go back home, do all the laundry. I put myself in independent study from high school so that I could get a high school diploma instead of having to get a GED, because it was really important to me, but I didn't have time to be in school, and it was too stressful to, like, the other kids were like, had a lot of things and we didn't have anything. And that was weird, being in a school that had, really wealthy kids, and, we didn't even have our dad. When I moved out of the house at a young age, 17, because of trauma in the house and mom's boyfriend being abusive to her, and me choosing to not live there anymore and stand up for her and myself, and then she'd get mad at me. So I was like, Mom, this has got to stop. We need to break these patterns. Like, I cannot do this, and I can't watch it happen, And so I leave the house at a young age, and these are all just building blocks. And, I thought it was normal. Like, I had no idea. And, I go to move out. I'm young. I have dad's child support that is getting directly sent to me. And then I meet my neighbor, and she's a dancer at a exotic club. And she says, why don't you come and dance with us and move in with us? And I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. And, I went, got an apartment with them, and it's crazy. Like, I go, like, do a, and this is like coming out just raw.
And you know what? I just commend you for your vulnerability right now. And I know that your story is going to help so many people. So thank you for sharing.
And that's the gift, because everything was so closed, and nothing, like, mom didn't even like teach me how to use, female products when I was a kid. Like, there was no parental guidance. It was like, here you go, figure it out. And thank God for the girls who were dancing girls, because they bring me into their house. We get an apartment together. I have my name on the lease. I'm 17. Thank God, because they bring me into the exotic club, and they're like, all right, they put me in a bikini. They show me how to shave and groom and do all this stuff. And then, like, I go out on the floor, and the owner calls my name over the speaker as I'm like about to walk out, and I've been there like tons of times with the friends and partying and whatever, and drugs and alcohol, because it was normal. Like, that's how we made it through. We made these concoctions, and then we had superhuman powers, and then we could go do all these things that we thought were great when we didn't even see how much we were destroying ourselves. At the same time, it was like making it through these space portals, and I don't know. So anyways, the gentleman of the owner calls me up and says, little lady, he says, turns out we found out you're not born in Oklahoma. And I was like, oh, I wasn't. And they're like, no, and you're not 18. I was like, oh, I'm not. They're like, we need you to put your clothes on. So I thank all my guardian angels, and I thank God, and I thank every spiritual being and energy that was like no, sweetheart, like you are valuable, like you are important, and you have such a better life ahead of you, and we will not allow you to throw your body to the wolves. Like, we are
Yeah.
not, as much as it's a beautiful sport, and I do obviously aerial dancing, and I don't always wear all my clothes, but my important, special, sacred essence is protected and covered. And whether it's energetically, it doesn't necessarily mean physically, but I've learned the importance of protecting myself. And it did not just start right there. That was just one little drop of the ocean that rippled and continually built my own personal ocean. I got all these drops of tears that fueled the magic power, the source of who I am, through all these cute little incidents. And living with them, with the dancers for a year or two, 17 to I don't even know, 18, 19, like, it's crazy. I would go to my studio, to my apartment, and there's like other dancers there, and there's 15 guys in the bathroom, and there's orgies happening. And I'm like looking at my boyfriend, and I'm like, we do not need to live here anymore. Like, maybe it's great for other people, but for my spirit and my path, as normal as it was to everybody else, it was something told me to just go, and we got in a big fight, and I moved out, and that was like just a teeny little taste of the teens.
It sounds like this is such a intense journey that you went through up to this point. And, there were a couple things that you said that really stood out to me. It was, first of all the experiences that you went through up to this point led you to this group of women. And I know that there's a lot of stigma around that profession. There's probably a lot of people that have a lot of judgment around that. But it sounds to me like, at least for a period of time, these women really took you in and were your saving grace. And so there's this contrast there. I think so easy for people to go down this road of judgment. But what I've found, and I've known actually some people that have been in that profession as well. And what I know of the people that I've met is that most of them, if not all, have trauma in their past as well that led them into that area. Was that something that you experienced, or was true for the people that you were around with that group?
Oh, majorly. There was so much life experiences that were never taught, or that were taken from them, or that were literally, like myself included, like, our virginities were taken, they were robbed, our parents were, never given the opportunity or chance to like be nurtured as youth. So we all like kind of found each other energetically, and it was a beautiful thing. And the craziest part is like the with the sex workers, the sex industry, like my auntie, my mom, because they ran away, their experiences, and like no judgment at all. Like, but the best part is like with the horses, this is like goes all the way forward from moving out of their place. I go directly to live with my boyfriend. I get into the medical marijuana movement in 1999. And the sex workers are a huge part of the support for the medical marijuana patients, because they're healing patients that don't have anybody to move their body to physically keep, like people who are quadriplegic and paraplegic, they got them to energetically move their field, to talk to somebody, to talk to, like, so people with disabilities don't always get the most amount of positive attention. However, these sex workers, they were able to nurture them and be there for them. And throughout, this whole stigma of what is good or bad, like, we decided we're just going to be neutral and there's no judgment. But the main part is it taught us our boundaries, our own self acknowledgement. Maybe what's good for you is not necessarily the best for me, and how to be in the same room without doing the same things and honor our true value was like the biggest lesson. Like, we didn't growing up, we thought we had to do all the same things everyone else was doing, the peer pressure, the peer activities, even like with the cocktails, like, oh, you have 5 pills of ecstasy, I'm gonna have 5 pills of ecstasy. It doesn't work like that. It's not safe.
I want to talk a little bit about that judgment, because I think that this is something that on every level somebody can relate to. And what you just said there is, we grow up thinking that we need to be matching what's around us, right? And it's a human need to be loved and accepted into a community and to be just accepted by people around you. And that roots back to the days of the tribes, right? Where you had to be part of a community. And so it's this deep rooted need for acceptance and love. And I think sometimes all of our experiences are different and unique in that way, but I think that everybody can relate to that. And so it's interesting to hear the perspective of finding your way through all of this, but then navigating that judgment and then coming to this place of learning your worth and having your own boundaries. And what a beautiful gift that came out of this surrounding. I think that there is a lot of judgment around people that have certain addictions or just addictions in general. I think there's a lot of people that have judgment around the industry that we're talking about, right? And what I've found in the work that I do, and it sounds like this has been your personal experience, is that really what it comes down to is, we're all just doing the best that we can with the experiences that we've gone through, with the information that we have. And oftentimes, addiction, especially, is a way to get through. It's a way to navigate. It's a way to get through the day and life. And so that sounds like it was all around you. At what point did you find purpose in all of this? It sounds like you really, kind of had this pivotal moment where you decided to go in a different direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The funniest part about the word addiction and the environment and the saturation of utilizing substances, whether it was chocolate cake or bottles of vodka or GHB or ounces of cocaine, it didn't matter. Like, it was self-medicating, just like we did in the tribal days. Like, there were people who were more familiar with it, so they were like the dealers or the medicine men, or in modern day, just to make a connection. Yep. And people with so much physical pain and energetic pain and traumatic pain, like something that is debilitating to their thought process or the ability to function in society, they need to soothe that, whether they use multiple orgasms or they use I don't even know, like the ecstasy, whatever, pharmaceuticals, Vicodin, doesn't matter.
Yeah. Shopping, food. Yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways that we cope with what's going on internally, and it's in external ways. We're trying to find that validation or that way to soothe, like you said, different sources.
Yeah. And it got to the level of like a saturation. Like, it was the only thing, and everything that was happening was balance was off. And so, I felt it and seen it in my environment, where there was no functioning. And this is only like a tiny phase of the beginning learning of when and how it's important to remove myself from a situation and be able to keep those lessons. Just something inside of me, just like this light being came through the darkness and just said, probably God, like my soul was like, hello, like, get your physical vessel. It's like, if you see an accident, you don't just go straight for it when you're driving on the freeway. You go around it. Like, you take the exit, you do whatever you got to do to get out of there. Some of us don't, though. We just want to go and see, and we got to take the pictures, and we want to go look at what the accident's all about. It's like, sometimes enough is enough, and you just have to remove yourself.
And that's where free will comes in, right? And choice.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
I also believe that as we're navigating this human existence, there are certain things that I believe are predestined to happen in life to
Right.
help our soul level up and learn. And like, there's some learnings that we came here to do. I like how you said it, it's Earth School, right? So
Yeah.
we've come here to learn. And, but I also think that we have a say in
Mm-hmm.
we experience certain things and how we learn. And also, and this is more of a recent learning on my part, but how much suffering is included in that. We have these events that happen to us, these traumatic events or these hard things that we go through. But we also have these pivotal moments, and it sounds like you had that where you had this inner knowing. If I choose to stay where I am, this is going to take my life in this direction, which is going to be a lot harder than if I choose to go in this direction. And it's like you said, are you going to stay and record the accident, or are you going to get past it and get into smoother traffic? And that is a choice point. And I believe that we all have those. So these experiences that happen to us are part of shaping the learning that we're doing while we're here. But it's those moments of choice and decision that really alter the next chapters of
Mm-hmm.
our life. Would you agree with that?
Completely, absolutely. And again, like without judgment, because of this level of teetering on the edge of complete chaos and saturation and death, and all these levels of like people leaving their body because they're so intoxicated and then coming back into it and experiencing it myself and through different accidents and things. When it came time to really, in my more current life where I'm at now, when it came time to work with these requests of other people passing or dying or needing to be put out of their misery through medication, I had physical experience, even though there's no MD or PhD of what this and that. When you have a connection with the soul and you can hear and listen to that quietest of voice amongst all the other teachings and chaos and marketing request or protocol or do this or don't do that, when you can have the ability to have that strongest chord, that eternal chord within, and listen to the highest of highs and only do as this soul to soul connection, it's the highest gift. I can barely even explain the amount of lessons I've been able to have through what most people would ridicule and judge as the most intoxicated, saturated, disgusted lifestyle ever. A lot of people would judge it like crazy, and they don't realize that majority of the time I was with doctors and with lawyers and judges and with the medical industry, and they were the ones providing everything, and the scientists. And so it's it's wild. It's totally wild.
There's this polarity to everything in life, isn't there? Like there's always these two sides of it. There's the side that we think that we understand or maybe that we see on the surface. And then there's the other side of it that's below the surface or other side of what we understand to be true. And so again, it's this judgment. That word keeps coming up throughout the theme, right? But I think it's so important because right now, the state of the world, I think judgment as like out of a 10, I think judgment in general is pretty high up there. Like it might even be at a 10 in the world just as a humanity. And I think that the way that we get past this judgment is to really put ourselves in somebody else's shoes the best that we can, because these experiences are not ours. But what we can do is we can look at things through the eyes of compassion. We can look at things through the eyes of curiosity and wanting to really understand. And when you do that, it takes the judgment away. And it just is like there's a person there that went through a lot of stuff. And also that stuff taught them so many things, so many lessons that they would not know had they not gone down that road and through those experiences. And those experiences brought us to where we are today. Would you agree with that?
Completely. And the quickest, best, easiest, most purest way to eliminate judgment is education.
Yes.
And those that are experienced and educated have normally no judgment at all. There's no place for it. It doesn't exist. It's like oxidizing a cell. Like there's no illness when we give it oxygen.
I totally agree. I think education and that willingness to learn, because you can be told something, but if you're not willing to be open-minded and receive that information of what the other person is sharing with an open heart of possibility and really wanting to understand, then it's just something that somebody's saying to you, but it's not really gonna make a difference. And so I think that the education and the willingness to be open to understanding somebody else's perspective, being willing to look at somebody else's story and perspective can be such a shift in how we see each other, how we love each other, and honoring that person's story, not with judgment, but with compassion and love, to see where you started off. And I know that there's a lot more in between all of this that you've been through. So we're really just touching on some of it. But I think that it's really beautiful to see just where you are now. And obviously, I am just getting to know you in this space and time. But what would you say was something that was really pivotal for you embracing your power and your knowledge and stepping into, because you talked a little bit about this end of life and being a doula, and obviously there's a connection there to the past that you talked about with experiencing and being around death and watching this process. So can you talk a little bit about what or how, I guess, you stepped into your power of using this for good?
Very true. Very, very well said. So again, for what just came to my mind is my mama, she did caregiving with elders. And so when I would pick her up and drop her off as a kid, 15, 16, I would sit with her for a while till she was ready, and I would meet them and I would talk with them. And that was like my first taste in this experience here of that. It just always stayed with me. And then so throughout leaving these crazy situations and wanting to dive deeper into the plant connection with plant medicine and taking those alone times that were so sad, and that I'd go talk to the plants and cry when I was a kid and they'd nurture me. I was like, how do I wanted to give, because I didn't get. So I was like, I have all this within me, and how do I direct it? And so I started thinking, well, instead of having drugs and alcohol, let's have plants and healing and medicine that's nurturing. I want to be nurtured. And so I had to nurture myself. And I learned that through the medical marijuana, because I had a severe injury. I had a car accident that led me to the path of healing. And pain is our best teacher. And that's mostly where the healing pivotal point comes from, is when I had my power and I wasn't doing anything with it and I was just partying, I got in serious accidents, like multiple times, like major concussions, like multiple times, where I was knocked out, laying on the ground. When I came to, I tried to swim my way out, and I stand up and I realized there's no water anywhere. Like I was completely just in another galaxy swimming through space. And realized, wow, I get to breathe oxygen. Like I'm alive right now. And the most pivotal moment was to have everything taken from me, even my body. And so many different situations, it would take us another 10 sessions to tell you all of them, but in as an abbreviation to the point is all of those moments, whatever they were, if we can eliminate, like we said with the judgment, eliminate any attachment or connection and look at the center point. The fact was everything was taken from me, everything. And so when I had nothing, I turned to the point of saying, okay, we need to do something different. We need to turn around, do a complete 180 and do the exact opposite of whatever it was I was just doing and find a way to live and take everything I've learned and nurture it, grow it, give it, study, educate, and give. You have to redesign it and learn, okay, what am I doing that's hurting me? What am I doing that's hurting people around me? Sure, I could be helping this, and this, but is it helping the whole picture, the holistic approach? And so it's a constant daily balance. It's balancing all things around me, within me.
You know, in my own ways, I can relate. And it sounds again like you had these moments of decision, of choice, where you decided in that moment where everything was taken away from you, in that moment, you were like, okay, I got to do it different. I have to do it different. I can't keep going like this. And so that was another moment where you chose to do it differently. And if there's anything that I could say has been the theme of my life as well, it's those choice points. It's the choice of, am I going to keep going the way that I've gone? Or am I going to do it differently? We have these moments of oftentimes hard things that happen to us, but I do believe that everything happens for our highest and best good. I truly believe, even the hard stuff. And it's those moments of their opportunity. They're an opportunity for us to, like you said, reevaluate and look at what's working, what's not working. Is this how I want to continue? Or am I going to pivot a little bit? Or am I going to go in a different direction? Or am I going to do a complete turnaround and go completely the other way? And so if we can look at these moments of these hardships that happen to us as happening for us in some way, even if we don't understand it, despite how hard it is, I think sometimes it can be a little bit easier to navigate these things. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Completely. And the more we do them, the more we find ourselves going to those places of true support. Because with Peaceful Support, LLC, I created, that was brought to me through spirit guides, that's how I got here, is being able to take those choices, but where does it bring us? It could bring us anywhere, but to really listen to the divine and to navigate. Sometimes we're not the navigator anymore, and we need to let go of the control of thinking that we're fully in control. Because sometimes when we have to let somebody else drive if we're too tired or if we're intoxicated. We have to let somebody else drive. We cannot keep making our own decisions, and we have to recognize that that's actually happening, whether and because this is our vessel, and we have to operate and drive this vessel as a soul that is alive within the body. That's just another part that I learned throughout my accidents and experiences and multiple near-death situations is, thank God there's other forces and energy that supports us. And the horses, like, I've been brought to healing centers to be vitalized, to stay there for a year, 2 years, or whether it was 6 weeks. I was physically welcomed into these spaces to be fully cared for and nurtured, even though they say you're here to manage this space and live here while you're healing, and these are your tasks and your jobs, and you have these animals. It's because the ego is so strong and thinks that it's in control and it's here to manage and help and work and do this ranch and be here doing all this work with these animals. And it's like, actually, God has given you these supportive beings to nurture you and heal you and give you the time and space to do your work, to come back into your body. And until you can operate your vessel, we're going to be here to fix your machine from all these different levels. And that's just, thank God for those supportive members in my experience, because, you know, our friends, our family, different environments are not always the best support systems, even though we think they are, because these things are happening or they're provided.
I think that too, there's a certain level of surrender that comes along with that too, of okay, so I've been presented with this opportunity. And so, like you said, it's like the ego might think that you're there for one reason, but the divine has a whole nother plan and a whole nother purpose of why you landed there, right? When we can surrender into these experiences that come to us and just allow whatever is meant to come from it, that's where there's this flow and there's this opportunity for expansion and growth and healing. When we experience these traumas in our life, that can be really, really difficult to allow and to let go of that control.
It took me to be living in Costa Rica for almost 10 years in the jungle on one part of this point, like the last in the 8th year or so, maybe 7th, 8th year, to meet this billionaire who was funding a huge festival, permaculture, organic, you know, eco living festival. We become best friends. He's the new funder in town, and we're on mushrooms for almost 3 weeks, and it can't. And I'm nearly homeless, don't have a job at this point. I went to Costa Rica to go and make sure that I could follow my path of being a holistic healer and teach yoga. And I went and I learned with the Bushmen. I did my work. I learned with these phenomenal yoga teachers. However, my ego, which I did not know existed, was so powerful that it started to learn these other parting experiences that I'd never seen or had in all these languages and all these flavors and cultures. And I indulged because my ego was like, oh, it's feeding you, to the point where I was literally half naked in the jungle, one flip flop, no home, no anything. And with this billionaire, and we're in the same vehicle. Like, I don't remember who was driving. We're on our way to this waterfall excursion, him and I, to do this shamanic journey. And he says, you know what's so horrible about your ego, Amanda? And I said, my ego. And he's like, yeah. He's like, you don't even know that you have one. He's like, seriously. And I was like, excuse me? He's like, it's just him and I in his truck, you know. And he's like, literally, like, serious billionaire. And he looks at me and he's like, how do you think I got here? He's like, we're equal. It does not matter. Like, your ego is so powerful and so strong. We're here in the same situation as is mine. And I was like, holy, wow, this is intense. And at that moment, I was like, I've got to get out of here again, you know, because the ego will guide us to what we think is fueling us and supporting us, because there's no judgment. It does not know. And till we get a grasp on what is for us, say your house is flooding and you believe you're going to be saved, and policeman comes by on a boat and he's like, get in the boat. And you're like, oh no, I'm fine, I'm going to be saved. There's one of your choices, because you were given a choice. You have opportunity. Then it keeps flooding more and more. You're on the roof, and then the policeman comes by again. And he's like, hey, I'm going to save you. Come with me, get in the helicopter. And you're like, oh no, it's fine, I'm protected, I'm going to be fine. This is what we do all the time. It's great. This is our choice. You know, we're going to be fine. And then, you know, then the house floods and you're cruising down the river about to drown and die. And, you know, you haven't died yet, but you're about to drown and die. And you've been out of food and water for 10 days, but you're still, you know, you have this choice to do something. And the boat goes by and you're like, get in the boat. We're going to save you. It's going to be fine. You have that choice again. You have that consciousness. And you're like, no, we're fine. This is what we do. We got it. We're going to be saved. And so then the boat goes away, and then you float down the river. Somehow you drowned. You're unconscious. You're at just nothing. You're out of your body. You're in the river. You're floating down the river. And you could have drowned and died, but some reason you find yourself, you're awakened on the beach and you're like, what am I doing here? You were literally guided to be, nobody knows why. There's no science, there's no religion, there's no nothing. God, like spirit, soul, God, there isn't any answer to why you did not die 10 times already. But there you are, and it's your choice at that point. Like, it was not necessarily it was your choice, but it was not your choice to be there.
Well, I think this goes back to kind of what I was talking about with how much suffering do we want to incur along the way, right? So it's like, in that analogy that you just gave, and I can relate to this even in my own ways, it's like, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. And then like it gets heightened, right? Like the suffering or whatever the experience gets heightened and it's more intense. And then you're like, no, I'm still gonna stick with this. But then it's like at some point you're gonna have to move, you're gonna have to go. And so I get what you're saying in that you have these choice points, but if you choose to stay, then the experience is going to escalate. And I think, like, where your story ends on the riverbank or like on the sand, right? That would be, to me, I would interpret that as, well, my soul didn't leave my body at that point because there's some reason that needs to still be fulfilled, that my soul needs to live out in this human experience. And so for me, that's kind of how I see that, in that you ended up on that sand for a reason, because you're right, the alternative would have been drowning and your human existence would be over. But to me, there's like, nope, you're not done yet. Still have things to learn. You still have experiences to have. You still have people to help, whatever that means for us as individuals. But that's kind of how I would interpret that. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 1,000%. And it's wild because you're unconscious, you're taking in water into your lungs and you're doing all these things and you're literally drowning, but you don't drown. It's a miracle,
And when you come out the other side of it, again, you have this choice to, what are you going to do with that experience? And so it sounds like for you, you have chosen to do some really beautiful things in helping other people. And so can you tell me a little bit? I know you've got an event coming up in June of next year, but I know there's some other things that you are working on. Do you want to talk a little bit about your business and what you do and maybe some things that you have coming up?
Yes, absolutely. I was gifted yoga, and it was like the one main staple that supported me entirely to be able to move through and breathe through any situation that was given to me. And so I feel called to provide that to Earth and to other humans and animals, and to even have it where they have opportunity to experience it together, because that's how I was gifted the ability to live to my fullest, is to be present and to nurture this vessel that we have, this human body. And yoga is more than an asana. An asana is a position or a pose that we get into. Yoga has a minimum of 8 highlighted branches. That is nutrition, the way we eat, breath, the way we breathe, our thoughts, our philosophy, our physical movement, the asanas, or the positions you see people do yoga with. That's just one tiny little part of it. And music, that's another part of yoga. It's to join, to connect, to be in community. And so a lot of my studies and teachings I've done is to teach the brain how to fully nourish the body. It's wild and crazy, but it's what I do, and I do it very well. And I say that because other people have taught me to say that, because I'm always so embarrassed or nervous of my past or how I learned these things. And they said, Amanda, like, that is the best gift because you know the difference. You truly have earned the ability to see the difference and to make a difference in this world for others who don't maybe know if they're hurting themselves or not because they're moving their body or eating a certain way. They're actually hurting themselves. And you know, we all indulge here and there, but that's a whole difference than a lifestyle. And yoga is a lifestyle. And so moving to Brookings when it was about 5 years and 7 months ago, Brookings, Oregon, I was given an opportunity to do my best. And I feel I have about 90% have been on point. I'm on best behavior I've ever been and just doing all the things I told myself I would without any distractions at all. Complete 100,000% sobriety. So being in Brookings, doing this work of a yogi, being a yoga teacher, an instructor, a holistic guide, the ancestors who've gone before us have been able to communicate with me. And because of my accidents, I've gotten superhuman powers. People would call them disabilities. And I did. I cried for the first couple of years from, you know, brain injuries and trauma. And I was so scared to tell anybody that I, you know, could see spirits or I could hear voices or, you know, they wanted to give me medication. And I'm like, I've done too much medication in my life. I'm not taking anything else ever again. I'm staying pure. And I've learned how to fine tune these gifts and not be afraid. And they've empowered me. And so ancestors spoke to me and guided me and say, you know, Brookings would love to have a yoga gathering. They would love to learn how to live in peace because there's a lot of dying and suffering in Brookings, Oregon. The majority of the community is retired. They're workaholics. They are religious fanatics. They are government. And I love every one of them. However, they are retired from Lockheed. I don't know if anybody knows Lockheed, but it's like building missiles for the government. Like, believe it or not, I've met more people who work for Lockheed who retired from the Bay Area and live here to retire. And they are they have so much energy that they're holding. And so Brookings called me to do major work and I love it. And I am here to give peaceful support in every way possible that I can. One of them is at the Azalea Park in Brookings, Oregon. We've been invited to every other year have an International Peace Day, a day of yoga, where we have music, we have movement, we have yoga mats in the grass, we have yoga teachers from all over the world, belly dancers, performers, iridologists, holistic healers, and we're inviting Jen, of course, to bring some of the horses out to be there and to do some of her trauma healing with the horses. And we have meditation masters from the Himalayas. We have some of the most world's profound, proven modalities and ways of giving and nurturing the human body, mind, and spirits entirely. And we just do this one day every other year from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. We have an ecstatic dance afterwards. We have organic, yummy, natural, whole foods and drinks and teas, no alcohol, no drugs, no medication. If you're on it, it's okay if that's your choice. However, just don't bring any. Just take it at home. If you want to come and dance and do yoga, that's your choice.
I love it. And I'm super excited to be a part of this event. And I just, you know, for whatever reason, I ended up here in Brookings as well. And as somebody who has delved into the healing world and feels like that's my calling as well, I'm just happy to know you. I'm happy to know that we are supporting each other and we're here together and we're supporting whoever we can in that healing process. So I just really, really want to thank you for sharing your story, part of it anyway. And you're doing beautiful work. And I'm here to support you in any way that I can. And I have one final question for you. And this is a one that I ask everybody that's on this podcast. If you could think of something that you want to be your legacy or an impact on the world when you are no longer in this physical existence anymore, what would that be? How would you how do you want to leave the world, or what's something that you would want to leave the world with, or how do you want to be remembered?
So what first comes to thought, there's like a 3-part response that happened, and I'll just say them because I don't know what they mean, but this is what it's asking to say. First one was to have a physical place, a landing space on Earth for those who require that healing zone to be nurtured as if they were rebirthed into Earth because of anything that's happened to them before, to have a nurturing womb on Earth outside of my physical body. The second I heard was to be acknowledged that there is room and space for the soul to be heard, and that it's their choice ultimately, without any interference, to give that zone for the soul's choice.
Beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. I love it. Thank you so much for being on this episode. I appreciate you. I just am holding so much space for you.
It's a true privilege to make it this far and to really keep indulging in all the supportive courses, like to have learned there's always been support. But in what direction? And so to be able to be in that path is a gift. So thank you for being here and part of the path.
Absolutely. And where can people find you and learn more about you?
So they can go to, especially for IYG, for the International Yoga Gathering, is a good place if they want to come and meet me, June 28th, 2025. And we can do personal courses together or group courses. We can go on the internet and do it. However, bodytemplehealth.com is where they can find the IYG 2025 information. They can find out about me there also. Bodytemplehealth.com is a platform that my dear soul sister Cara Ringland created. It is a virtual temple for people to connect with holistic healers and people that live a certain way and support in a certain path. So that's the best place. Or they can email me, brookingsoregonyogaday@gmail.com. And I'm available via phone because voice is where our soul is. So text and internet is super good and great. However, to really get that full soulful connection, you can call me 530-334-0595.
I love it. And I will post all of that information in the episode. And again, thank you so much for being here, for sharing your story, for being vulnerable today. I know that was, not necessarily an easy thing to do. So I just want to thank you so much for sharing your journey, or at least part of it. And again, I truly believe that that's going to help a lot of people. So thank you.